someone put one of the lawn signs up there. I'm here primarily to thank all the residents of Hurley for, there are many of you who volunteer in Woodstock, or you volunteer for larger organizations like the Red Cross or Hospice. In fact, I have a banner here that lists some of the organizations that we recognize each volunteer member of the organizations. And the whole idea about Volunteers Day is that a community really can be somewhat hollow if it doesn't have volunteers. And if you look at your own community, and you'll see you have scores of volunteer organizations. And each of those people, they offer their kindness, their generosity, bravery, and community spirit to really enhance the communities. When people volunteer, they usually set aside their politics and differences, and they stand shoulder to shoulder with someone to save someone's house, to feed people, Meals on Wheels and other organizations, to do good community things. And sometimes, as we often do, we can get all embroiled in a particular issue or some controversy. But if you can get somewhat a little disheartened by the way conversations may be going. But if you step back and you look at all and think of all the decent people who are working so hard, it's very heartening. We like to say volunteers are the wind beneath any successful community. So, as I said, I'm here to thank all the people of Hurley. What I did was, we send this invitation through our outreach committee to each of the organizations and ask them to send these out to, so I'm going to give one to each of the board members.
Sure.
Unfortunately, it's up the committee the last one. It's left two. Thanks. No, there have been volunteers of the year, people who are done wonderful things and they're celebrated. But one of the things that we've considered is that after 20 years, you may have recognized 20 people, or maybe 50 people. But there are hundreds of volunteers who never quite get the appreciation that they deserve. The beautiful thing about volunteers is that they don't ask to be thanked. They do all this wonderful stuff without that. But what we believe is that a community shouldn't take their volunteers for granted. So on this one day a year, in a small way, we thank all the volunteers. They are the guests of honor on that day. There's no one person, it's all of the volunteers. So I brought one of the things that we do is we give out these guest of honor buttons. You volunteer for anything?
I volunteer for the town board, yeah.
So each volunteer gets one of these when they come into the park. I'm not a juggler. Okay, so I also have some programs, so if you can't make it and you want to know what's going on there, it tells you the performers, a little history about when it started a little over 19 years ago, and some specific information and thank yous. You can all read those at your leisure. I also have a banner. And this banner we put up and we hang it at the park during the event. And he lists not all of them, because we can't fit all of them on. All the organizations that, whose members are the guests of honor. I know it's kind of quick, but
It's amazing.
you'll see West Hurley Fire Department there,
Mm-hmm.
because along it, they do mutual aid for the town of Woodstock.
Yep.
And we recognize the town of Olive Fire Department, Centerville from Saugerties, they help us out. But there are, I'll just show you all this here.
Only gonna click that.
So this, okay. I don't know if they probably can't see it unless they, anyway, this list is also on the website. Now, all the volunteers that are invited, they get treated to lunch. All the restaurants in town provide food. All the restaurants provide food. Over 50 of the stores and shops have donated items for the raffle, which is a special raffle. About 10 years ago, you know how raffles work. You get items donated, you sell tickets as a fundraiser, and then people win the prizes. About 10 years ago, we realized that after the day was over, that not many of the volunteers actually won the prizes. So we said, you know what, let's change it. So when a volunteer comes to the park, they get one of these guest of honor buttons, they get a wristband so they can get food, and they get a raffle ticket. So only the volunteers can win those raffle tickets, those raffle prizes. One of the things we do is we know that when volunteers go out and do all this great stuff for us, that they leave their families. Sometimes they can bring them along for a moment or two, but for the most part, people volunteer and they leave their families. So when we put together Volunteers Day, we provide stuff for the kids to do so that the volunteers can bring their kids and the kids can play on the little activities. We have a clown that's there, jugglers, so that the kids aren't saying, well, is it over yet? You know, this way they can enjoy the day along with their parents or grandparents. That's pretty much most of what I came to tell you, but most of all, thank you, all of you who volunteer. And it's not just, it's part of the whole idea that volunteerism not only is a good thing for each community, but in this time, it's important to take a day out of the year and realize what's good among us. So, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for letting us know. We'll make sure that those who live in the town of Hurley and volunteer in those organizations know about the day.
That's great, especially the fire department.
Yes, absolutely. We'll make sure that this gets out to them.
That's great.
Yeah.
And actually, you can maybe have that list that explains what happens at the event disseminated to the fire department or any organization that you have contact.
All right.
Is the food pantry on there?
Yes.
It should be.
I'll be there.
Good, thank you.
Thank you very much. I agree that volunteerism is a sign of a healthy community.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
There's a long history of volunteering in my own community.
There's music at 2:30. There's a group called the Spellbinder Orchestra. There's Peter Einhorn Jazz. There's a group called Free Range Singers. There's a sing-along. A lot of people seem to enjoy it. And then at 4 o'clock there's a dedication. It's a simple ceremony where all the volunteers are declared the guests of honor, and then there's a group photo for everyone who's there. So, thank you.
That's it.
Anyone else wishing to make a comment, please step to the microphone and share with us your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Matthew Cerny and Aileen Helsley from 170 Altamont Drive. Last month I stood here and asked for help with a flooding issue that we were having on Altamont. The drainage infrastructure on Altamont is in need of a serious overhaul. But we had an individual problem where most of the water from Gina Court and Altamont Drive was running down our driveway into our house. I spoke privately last month with the town attorney, Supervisor McKnight, and Superintendent Schultes. Within just a few days, Aileen and I met with John Wyachek from the Highway Department. Together we came up with a plan of how to solve it at the end of our driveway. Along with Charlie, Pete, Andrew, Brett, Wayne, Bill, and Jimmy Quigley of the Highway Department. They did an exceptional job. They have solved our issue on our property. They did a great job doing it, and we appreciate it very much. I know that Superintendent Schultes gave some direction, but he was out of town on a family matter the day that they did the work. But they really did a great job. It was a new experience for me. I hadn't been to a board meeting in a few years, and I didn't know what to expect. It's easy to feel like you're involved or connected or understand in our day of social media. But I can tell you that I came down here and Facebook had given me the wrong idea of what to expect down here. Supervisor McKnight, I found you to be engaging, caring, and very professional, and I appreciate it very much. I've known the highway superintendent for 20 or 25 years. I think he's a good guy, and he served our community, served us as a family, and I appreciate it very much. I was born and raised in Hurley, as was Aileen, and I would like to tell all of you on the board and the highway superintendent, the vitriol down here is terrible, and I would like to see it worked on. Some of the things that were said to me privately by a board member are completely uncalled for. His job is to work within his budget. If he's going to complain about he doesn't have enough money to spend, well, that's kind of his job. Your job, if you say, well, he's not using his money as well as he could be, I get that too. That's how organizations work. He wants more money, you want things done differently, however it may work. But the vitriol was what really bothered me. There were things said that should not be said. And I hope that you work on it. The town of Hurley deserves better working relationships among the board and the department. But I did want to personally thank Highway Superintendent, Town Supervisor, and most importantly, the Highway crew. They did a fantastic job, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Christian Moore. I live at 241 Orchard Street here in Hurley. My wife, Denise Funicello, has emailed Superintendent or Supervisor McKnight on several occasions starting in March of this year about an ongoing flooding problem on my property as well as that of my neighbors on either side, the two neighbors to the left, the neighbor to my right, and the neighbors behind me. In fact, the neighbor behind me, his shed is being undermined by the water that is accumulating and running off out of the culverts. In March, Mike Schultes forwarded an email to Ms. McKnight regarding the plan that he believed was appropriate to fix the problem. And later in March, Ms. McKnight, you emailed back saying that you would talk to the town engineer and we would be hearing from that person shortly regarding a plan to fix the issue. We did not hear back from anyone until May of this year when we emailed you again, in which you responded that the town would need to secure easements to conduct a survey and that you would soon begin the process. We did not hear again from you until July, when we emailed you, I'm sorry, August, when we emailed you again about the ongoing problems in my yard and about my neighbors. My yard is saturated for a good portion of the year, as well as my neighbors. My septic system fills up immediately after being pumped out with water. And now we understand that your most recent response was that the water is coming from Zandava, which is about 2.5 blocks from where I live, if not further, and would have to travel uphill to get to where I live. I believe that the problem is that the culverts that are constructed are not doing their job appropriately, and I understand that in your last email, you said that you would be in touch with you would have letters drawn up to conduct a survey. So I'd like to have some information about that process, when we can expect that to occur, and what the step after that would be. Thank you.
Where do you live?
I live at 241 Orchard Street.
And what did you say your last name was?
Muller, M-O-L-L-E-R.
Anyone else wishing to make a public comment, please step to the microphone.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Diana Klein, live 420 Fairview Avenue, right up the road. Just a couple things. Since we can't talk, except for this hour, I'm going to have to ask if we're going to have any town clerk reports tonight. We're 5 behind, so I'd like that one to be addressed. And then last meeting, I mentioned about Peter Humphreys taking the town vehicle home, and one of his responses was that instead of the mileage, it's cheaper to take the car. But I just wanted to make you all aware that he continually mentions that he never puts in for mileage, so I don't know why that has changed. And I would wonder if there is any kind of a mileage policy for the town board. Does any other town board members put in for mileage? So at some point, if you guys can address that at a meeting, or address me personally for that. And that'd be it. Thanks.
Anyone else wishing to make a comment, please step forward.
Hello, my name is Riley Green. I live at 490 Mountain View Avenue. Last night there was another power outage locally in Rolling Meadows, and the other week during the planning board meeting there was a power outage, and there was no ability to log on because the town couldn't use a cell tower or cell service to be able to log on. And I'm asking, my first question is, and I don't expect an answer at this point, is there an update on cell service improvements in Hurley? It's really just a safety issue with all these outages. It's an issue. That's my first question. My second question is, I saw on the agenda for tonight to retain the Bonadio Group. They're based out of Rochester, and they have operations in New York City and in Dallas, according to their website. If that is the case, let's make sure that we hire local, even for professional services when at all possible. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to make a comment, please step forward.
Yeah, hi, I'm Kathy Donlin from 7 Wildwood Drive. And just to put it out there that at some point we'd like an update on the RFP for Wildwood Drive. It's getting late in the year, so I'm thinking it's probably, we're not gonna get the work done until next year. But if we could just get an update sometime on the RFPs. And thank you for pushing that stuff and getting it through.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make a comment, please step forward. That's flexibility. Yeah.
When it's flexible.
Chill the whole thing.
Okay. I'm Lynn Bailey, I live at 46 Walton Lane. And as I stood looking out my window at the torrents of rain rolling down into my front yard, I thought about you and how many people might benefit from just having that bump, somewhere along their property. The rain comes down Walton, and I have a low point before it continues down to Twin Lakes. I just had to spend $7,000 to put in a drainage system. And I'm trying to keep that water diverted from my basement, which 10 years ago didn't flood, but in the last 2 years has flooded a lot. Also, the drainage system goes onto Lucas Avenue, which I'm told is more of a county issue, which I'll take up with them. But, I have a little ledge on the road. You can see where the water comes down. And I'm just wondering if we could just put a little tar berm there, or build up the berm there at the beginning of my driveway. And then there might be some other people in town that would benefit from a program that did that. So I just put that out there for the highway department and the town board to consider. By the way, I also had a question if any of you received an invitation to go to a public meeting on May 1st that was offered by Jordan Bem in Arizona Hudson Valley. It's supposed to be an informational meeting and no one showed up. I found out about it through their application to the DEC. It was May 1st. And supposedly they sent an invitation to the town of Hurley, to the town of Hurley Building Department, to their zoning officer and code enforcement officer. And if they received those invitations, I'm very disappointed that they didn't attend. So I just wanted to ask that question if anybody has information on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make a comment, please step forward. Hearing none, motion to close public comment.
Motion to close public comment.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Anyone opposed or abstaining? So carried. First resolution on the agenda is a resolution to authorize an agreement for professional services with Bonadio Group LLP, certified public accountants. Whereas the protection of public finances is among the highest duties entrusted to the town board of the town of Hurley. And whereas the town board of the town of Hurley has deemed it prudent to employ an accounting firm that specializes in municipal accounting to assist the bookkeeper employed by the town of Hurley and to provide a safeguard against inadvertent errors or oversights. And whereas the town of Hurley procurement law, codified at Town of Hurley Code 35-6, exempts professional services from the otherwise applicable requirements for the solicitation of bids, quotes, or other comparative proposals for services. And whereas the town board has reviewed the attached 4-page proposed agreement from Timothy J. Doyle, CPA, native of Kingston, a partner at Bonadio and Company LLP, dated July 17th, 2023, and finds the terms of each to be generally agreeable. And whereas the attached standard clauses for municipal contracts required by different sections of state law, and the town board finds it necessary that these also be agreed to as part of any contract by the town of Hurley for professional services. Now therefore be it resolved by the town board of the town of Hurley as follows. 1, the town board assents to the attached 4-page proposal agreement from Timothy J. Doyle, CPA, a partner at Bonadio and Company LLP, dated July 17th, 2023, on the condition that the attached standard clauses are incorporated into the agreement as well. And 2, upon the occurrence of the preceding paragraph, Supervisor Melinda McKnight is hereby authorized and directed to execute and issue payment according to the terms of the agreement and under no circumstances shall any additional contract be authorized without further assent of the town board other than that hereby agreed to. 3, this resolution shall take effect immediately. That's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I have a question about this. What happened to Stack? Stack RBT.
We've been using them.
Are we can still use them as well as Bonadio, or as this company?
Bonadio? At this point, we do have the ability to use either one.
All right, my question is that when we first hired a bookkeeper back in November, stipulation was that the money paying for the bookkeeper will come out of the Stack amount coming through there. I see at the organization meeting that the bookkeeper gets something like $36,000, and we pay Stack $4,360 a month. And that has not gone down at all. We've been paying them a monthly that, and we're doing this. We also stipulated that the reason why we hired a bookkeeper was to keep everything in-house and eventually have it stay here. This has been 10 months. I think the learning curve is finished already. You know, I don't think we need to have an additional bookkeeper when we have Stack on one thing and we have also the in-house bookkeeper. You know, when we discussed this back in November, you came with a stipulation saying that we are going to wean ourselves off of the bookkeepers and utilize this. I think 10 months is a long enough period, a learning curve for a bookkeeper to learn what to do more or less.
Anyone else? Any additional discussion? So this accounting firm represents 300 municipalities in New York State. They don't do taxes for residential customers. So there will be no holdup, as is typical in April when we need accounting services with the previous accounting firm.
Well, I've been on the board for 6 years so far, and I have, except for this year, I have never heard or seen any difficulty with the tax that we've had.
Well, so my response is I wonder how closely some people have been paying attention,
I've been paying
because the problems have been pretty staggering. So this group was just retained by Ulster County. It's true that we've had to run 2 parallel things at the same time until we get up and running, so that we were cautious in making the transition.
Well, how long do you think we're going to need for this bookkeeper, in-house bookkeeper, to do all the stuff that was supposedly, assigned to that person?
RBT is no longer writing checks or anything. They're not doing our bookkeeping.
Okay.
Their only function would be accounting.
Can you clarify what RBT is?
RBT was formerly known as Sickler, Torsia, Allen and Churchill, and they were bought a year ago by another company, and now they are called RBT. I don't know what that stands for.
Out of Newburgh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not the same.
It's not the same. The service is not the same as what we had. As I mentioned, when I read the resolution, Timothy J. Doyle is a native of Kingston. His wife actually is a resident of Hurley. He and his wife were married at the Hurley Reformed Church in the 90s. And although it was stated that, they're very big and they're not local, that's not really exactly true. I mean, they have an office in Albany. Tim Doyle lives just outside of Albany. They also have offices in Syracuse and Buffalo. They are the 5th largest accounting firm in New York State, and they dedicate their services to government, New York State government specifically, as well as corporate and nonprofit. So if you don't want to switch to a specialist in government accounting,
All I'm saying
I
is
respect
we had
that.
Sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm just saying I respect that.
All right, all I'm saying is that we've had I've been on the board for 6 years, and except for this year that we just had right now, for the past 5 years, I saw no issues with it. I followed it closely, what's going through. I actually spoke to Stack, when, I forget the woman there, about what was going on with the financials at the beginning, and she had no clue what was going on. She actually, in other words, she was telling me that the issue with it, she had no idea what the problem was. She never heard the problem from the town of Hurley, more or less. We claimed that fact that codes were misinterpreted, more or less, and we blamed it on them.
So there were some challenges that happened when one of the principals who used to live in Hurley retired. Things changed. The former town clerk noticed things changed. And then again, when the merger happened a year ago, there was a definite change.
We have a contract with Stack.
We have what we have from the beginning of the year.
Right, in other words, we have a contract with Stack, so in other words, we're gonna continue paying Stack until the end of this
No,
year.
we're transitioning away.
I understand,
So
but we're
this
still
will be a
paying them
shift.
$43.60 a month.
So that's the motion. We have a second.
I second.
Is there any other discussion?
Well,
All in favor?
I have
Aye.
one question.
Any opposed?
No.
Or abstaining?
I oppose.
Okay, Mr. Bonds opposes.
Supervisor McKnight,
So carried.
It was,
can I ask a question?
it was 3-1.
Next.
I'm sorry, 3-1.
As a department head, can I ask a question?
Yeah. You're not part of the town board. We've got a.
We've got a
thing
packed
on the
agenda. We
for
can,
you,
we
though.
can, yeah.
Don't
But
worry.
as a department head and somebody that depends on the financials, can I ask a question?
Not at this time.
So the attorney answers for the supervisor?
It's the town board's meeting, you're not. part of the
You got
town
it.
board.
Budget line adjustments resolution. Whereas the town board of the town of Hurley adopted a budget currently in force based upon expected revenue that would be brought into the town and anticipated expenditures the town would need to make. And whereas several budget lines in the current town budget have been overutilized, while several also have been underutilized. Thus far, compared to the anticipated demands when the budget was adopted, and whereas the town board finds that it is in the public interest to balance all accounts and budget lines while not disturbing the overall total of expenditures budgeted for. Now therefore be it resolved by the town board of the town of Hurley that the current budget of the town of Hurley be adjusted as follows. A 1320.4, that the following appropriation lines be decreased. A 1320.4, $5,000. A 1620.1, $15,000. A 3620.1, $25,000. A 7310.4, $5,000. A 8020.4, $20,000. A 8160.4, $20,000. And A 8161.1, $40,000. And that the following appropriation lines be increased. A 1410.4, $3,000. A 1460.4, $500. A 1620.4, $25,000. A 1650.4, $2,000. A 1670.4, $5,000. A 1670.4, $5,000. A 3620.4, $5,000. A 5010.4, $64,000 or $6,400. A 5132.2, $2,000. A 5132.4, $25,000. A 6772.4, $1,600. A 7110.4, $2,500. A 8160.1, $33,000. And A 8161.4, $19,000. So the amount decreased is $130,000, and then the amount increased is $130,000. This is not moving any real money around. This is just taking money where we overestimated the amount of money needed and moving it to areas where we underestimated the amount of money needed. Be it further resolved that the town supervisor be authorized and directed to undertake the effect the same as the chief fiscal officer of the town of Hurley pursuant to Hurley Code 40-3. That's the motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, is there a way of finding out what these codes stand for? What budget lines?
Well, I would like to know as a resident what they are. I mean, you're shooting a bunch of numbers around and we have no clue what you're talking about.
Is there a way of finding out what these lines are?
Yeah, it's on the financials that you get every month.
For 6 years.
How about the residents? Where do we find it?
Well, I can tell you.
That would be great. Would you
Okay.
go over them all again slowly so we could all understand?
Thank you. Thirteen 20.4 is independent auditing and accounting. 1620.1 is buildings personnel line. 3620.1 is the building department personnel line.
Are these going down or up? Can you give us the amounts again, because it's rattled off way too quick.
The resolutions are posted
Yeah, but
online.
the ones that she's reading are the ones that are going down, and then after she reads the ones
know,
going
but-
down,
but we-
she'll
not
read
on
the
the
ones
agenda.
going up.
It's not, I copied the
It's
agenda.
on the
Well, it's right on
resolutions.
here, right? 1320.4
They were
is
posted this
decreased.
morning. The resolutions were posted this morning. So they're online, posted 12 hours before the meeting.
Thank you.
Heavens to Betsy.
Seventy-three 10.4 is recreation contractual. 8020.4 is planning contractual. 8160.4 is refuse garbage contractual. 8161.1 is recycling personnel. 1410.4 is town clerk contractual. 1460.4 is records management contractual. 1620.4 is buildings contractual. 1650.4 is communications contractual. 1670.4 is central print and mail contractual. 1320.4 is buildings department contractual. 5010.4 is highway superintendent contractual. 5132.2 is highway garage equipment. 5132.4 is highway garage contractual. 6772.4 is programs for aging. 7110.4 is parks contractual. 8160.1 is refuse garbage personnel. And 8161.4 is recycling contractual.
And I'm sorry, you said these were all going down? No, those are
The
ones
second group are
up.
going up, the first group are going down. Just moving money around because we underestimated in some and overestimated in others.
Which happens.
Which happens every year, and usually prior administrations would wait till the very end of the year to clean this up. State Controller's Office recommends that this happen regularly.
Well, at least at the end of Q3.
Yes, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I hope not.
Thanks for explaining.
You're welcome. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Resolution to adjust the budget to account for previously approved expenditure of American Rescue Plan Act funds. Whereas the town board of the town of Hurley entered into a contract in 2022 with Industrial and Utility Valuation Consultants, Inc. to conduct a comprehensive reassessment of real property within the town of Hurley. And whereas the funds to be expended pursuant to the contract with Industrial and Utility Valuation Consultants, Inc. were anticipated to come in the future from funds that would become available to the town through the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA. And whereas funds now available through ARPA to cover the cost of the contract with Industrial and Utility Valuation Consultants, Inc. Now therefore be it resolved by the town board of the town of Hurley that the current budget of the town of Hurley be amended and adjusted as follows. That the revenue budget line A4089 federal aid other be increased by $62,500. That appropriation budget line A1355.4 be increased by $62,500 to cover the contract with Industrial and Utility Valuation Consultants through to and including December 2023. That the amount expended above from A688 unexpended ARPA liability to A4089 federal aid other be adjusted to equal $62,500, and be it further resolved that the town supervisor be authorized and directed to undertake and effect the same as the chief fiscal officer of the town of Hurley pursuant to the Town of Hurley Code 40-3. That's the motion. Is there a second? Any discussion?
What is the balance in the ARPA money right now? Do we have it?
Off the top of my head, I can't tell you. I can tell you tomorrow.
Approximately?
Tomorrow,
We still have money in the ARPA account?
yeah. Actually, these funds were actually allocated already. So they were already set aside. This is just moving the money into the budget so we can pay the consultant. So this was already accounted for.
Okay.
And it was already earmarked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was already earmarked and set aside.
This was before you were supervisor.
No, this was last fall. The assessor had recommended that we do this, right? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Makes total sense.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? So carried. The backstory on the next resolution is that I received a letter from New York State DEC about a week ago advising the town that we had not submitted our annual MS4 report to DEC and that if we didn't get it in the next 30 days, it would not be a good thing.
I'm sorry, who was responsible?
So we thought that the building inspector who is on leave now had completed it, and so we were kind of caught unawares that that report hadn't been completed.
So he didn't mention that he hadn't
No,
completed it?
no.
Is it usually just completed as a
Yeah.
matter of course?
Yeah.
This isn't one of the things that we get violated yearly, it's MS4. Have we done this before?
We've done it every year, yes. Whereas the town of Hurley is required by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation to develop, implement, and enforce a stormwater management program designed to reduce the discharge of contaminants in stormwater runoff to the maximum extent practical. And whereas the town of Hurley is required to conduct an annual evaluation of the town's progress in implementing the program and to submit an annual report to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation regarding the same. And whereas the Town of Hurley procurement law codified at Town of Hurley Code 35-6 exempts professional services from the otherwise applicable requirements for the solicitation of bids, quotes, or other comparative proposals for services. And whereas the town board has received the attached 2-page proposal independent contractor agreement as well as the attached 2-page proposal provided and finds the terms to be generally agreeable and the flat fee cost of, actually this is gonna be an hourly, right? It's $150 an hour.
What do we change it?
For a reasonable sum for services to be provided, and whereas the town board has reviewed the attached 2-page proposed independent okay, we have to strike the last paragraph, there was a typo. Whereas the town board has received the attached 2-page proposed independent contractor agreement from Paul Economos of Kingston and finds the terms to be generally agreeable, and that Mr. Economos is qualified to prepare the annual MS4 report. And whereas the attached standard clauses for municipal contracts require different sections of state law, and the town board finds it necessary that these also be agreed to as part of any contract by the town of Hurley for professional services. And whereas time is of the essence and the annual MS4 report must be completed and submitted to the DEC by the end of the first week in September. Now therefore be it resolved by the town board of the town of Hurley as follows. That the attached agreement by Paul Economos be incorporated into the agreement as well as the meeting of the September deadline for the DEC being made a condition of payment. Upon the occurrence of the preceding paragraph, Supervisor McKnight is hereby authorized and directed to execute and issue payment according to the terms of the agreement, and under no circumstances shall any additional contract be authorized without further assent of the town board other than that hereby agreed to. 3, this resolution shall take effect immediately. That's the motion. Is there a second? Okay. Discussion.
That first, on the first page, the bottom, says the town board asserts the attached 4-page proposed. That's an
Yeah.
error? That's an error?
That's an
Yeah,
error.
it's an error.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
that's, we just have to substitute it, the paragraph with it, yeah.
Is there a cap on the hourly rate?
So I think the estimate is that that it'll take about 8 hours. It's a 75-page report. So,
Which we have no choice but to do.
right,
And it didn't get done by the person who's supposed to do it, he's on leave.
right, went out on leave, right, of course. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? So carried. Resolution to hire part-time transfer station and recycling center attendants. Whereas the town of Hurley Transfer Station and Recycling Center is in need of a part-time staff to assist in smooth operations of the facility, and whereas the town of Hurley placed advertisements on its website and social media platforms, and whereas the town of Hurley received 2 applications from employment and both candidates were interviewed, now therefore be it resolved by the town board of the town of Hurley to hire Kyle Kinney to perform the duties of part-time transfer station attendant for a maximum of 18 hours per week at a rate of $15 per hour from Fund Line 8160.1, and be it further resolved to hire Nicholas Lane to perform the duties of transfer station attendant for a maximum of 18 hours per week at a rate of $15 an hour from Fund Line 8160.1. That's the motion. Is there a second?
I second that one.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? So carried. Resolution from the Justice Court, approve Hurley Court to apply for 2023-2024 JCAP grant. Be it resolved, the town board of the town of Hurley authorizes the Hurley Town Court to apply for JCAP grant in the 2023-24 grant cycle up to $30,000. So the motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I third.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? So carried.
Was the Jacob grant 30 last year? I mean,
I think so. I think that's standard. Okay, so we have one that came in just this morning, which is a shared services agreement with the town of Esopus. We did, I think, 6 of these or something last year. So, resolution authorizing the execution of an intermunicipal agreement regarding highway department shared use equipment and services. Whereas the town of Hurley has determined that entering into an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Esopus with respect to shared use of certain highway, non-highway specialty equipment and skilled personnel in substantially the form on file with the town clerk is in the best interest of the town. And whereas the proposed action constitutes a type 2 action which will not have an adverse effect on the environment, and now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Hurley does hereby authorize by the favorable vote of not less than a majority of all the members of the board as follows. 1, the supervisor of the town of Hurley is hereby authorized and directed to execute the intermunicipal agreement between the town of Hurley and the town of Esopus in substantially the form on file with the clerk, with such changes as shall be approved by the supervisor and the attorney for the town and which do not affect the substance thereof. 2, the supervisor of the town of Hurley, the town clerk and its officers, employees and agents are hereby authorized and directed for and in the name and on behalf of the town of Hurley to do all acts and things required or provided by the provisions of the intermunicipal agreement. 3, this resolution shall take effect immediately. That's the motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion?
What were you reading before? You don't have it here.
The attorney just brought this in. It's the same resolution we passed a year ago for Rosendale, Woodstock, Olive, Ulster.
Where is it?
Any discussion?
You can have that one.
yay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? So carried.
Oops. I have to go back to the dollar store.
Oh.
Resolution authorizing the town clerk to advertise a request for sealed bids for the purchase of a 10-ton tilt bed equipment trailer. Whereas the superintendent of highways of the town of Hurley has requested that the town proceed with advertising for a 10-ton tilt bed equipment trailer to be used primarily for transporting town of Hurley Highway Department equipment and materials pursuant to specifications substantially in the form attached here and on file with the town clerk. And whereas pursuant to local and state law, the expected cost of purchasing a 10-ton equipment trailer will exceed the threshold requiring the procurement of the same to be advertised for bids. And whereas pursuant to New York State Highway Law 142-1A, the purchase of equipment for the superintendent of highways and the highway department is subject to town board approval. And whereas this 10-ton equipment trailer is a piece of equipment that would be primarily used by the superintendent of highways and the highway department and would be appropriately charged to the budget of the highway department upon purchase pursuant to New York State Highway Law 141-3. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Hurley does hereby authorize and direct the town clerk to advertise for requests for sealed bids and a request for proposals as requested by the highway superintendent in accordance with the attached and foregoing specifications. That's the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? So carried. You're welcome.
So all bids are coming in by September 15th?
Mm-hmm.
Unless the town board wants to change that.
I'm assuming we're gonna get bids.
I'd imagine.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Okay, there is another one that was, last minute, and it's essentially going with the renewal of the health insurance for the town. So,
Okay.
the town board has never, granted the supervisor permission before in a resolution. So we're all learning, and here we go. Whereas the town of Hurley provides healthcare coverage for its employees, and whereas the town's insurance agency and broker Marshall and Sterling has reviewed the town's current health insurance plan and has found that continuing the town's MVP, EPO, HD, HP Silver 8 HSA Exchange Certified Plan is the most cost-effective option for providing town employees continuing and substantially similar healthcare benefits to what they are receiving now. And whereas pursuant to the collective bargaining agreement the town is currently a party to, the town cannot make substantial change in the healthcare benefits afforded to town employees at this time and must continue to provide a substantially similar level of coverage to what is currently provided to them. And whereas the town's current health insurance plan is set to expire at the end of August, and MVP has offered to renew the town's current health insurance plan for another year, beginning September 1st, 2023, with substantially similar levels of coverage at an increase of approximately, I think it's actually 5%. This says 7. So, whereas the town of Hurley further provides its employees dental insurance and voluntary vision coverage through Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, New York, New York. And whereas the Guardian Life Insurance Company has offered to renew the town's current dental insurance and voluntary vision coverage plans for another year at the current cost. And whereas the town's insurance agency and broker Marshall and Sterling has recommended the same be renewed, as well as it will provide the same coverage for those employees electing it at the same cost as is currently provided. Now therefore be it resolved by the town board of the town of Hurley as follows. 1, the town board authorizes the town supervisor to sign the small group recertification document provided by MVP and any other necessary documents to renew the town's current health insurance plan provided to town employees through MVP at the projected rate increase of approximately 5% for the year beginning September 1st, 2023. The town board authorizes the town supervisor to sign any documents necessary to renew the town's current dental coverage, dental insurance, and voluntary vision coverage plans for another year at their current cost for the year beginning September 1st, 2023. This resolution shall take effect immediately. That's the motion. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? So carried. Okay. That's all the resolutions for the evening. Next item is we received a memo, town board members have it in front of them, from the town engineer about Joy's Lane. We had We had residents of Joy's Lane come to the town board on several occasions asking for some relief from traffic. This is what was sent back to the town board by the town engineer. Recommendation is for some kind of speed bump. Perhaps the highway superintendent could elaborate.
Good evening. I had discussions with Dennis Larios of Engineer Larios over the last week and a half, and we felt that the best option, I told him, was to do a speed hump, not a speed bump. They're broader, but they still slow the cars down quite a bit because your front wheels hit first. And an example is coming around the traffic circle in Kingston and you're going on Chandler Drive, that's a speed hump, not a speed bump. So I told Dennis that we propose temporary ones to begin with, and I'd like to ask the board for a resolution, if you could, to authorize me to purchase them, or you could purchase them underneath the traffic control budget line. I think they're around $2,000 a piece, and we utilize them with both, we install one on each end of the road on Joy's Lane. Pine Street would be another road that we look at to test them on, and also Schoolhouse. And we would put those in conjunction with the speed sign, and then we could get the control data and see what, see how we're doing with it. And if that comes out positive, then Dennis and his company can engineer or draw plans for a permanent blacktop speed hump, and we'd install those in the roadways. And I think that would, we feel that's our best option at this time. Actually, I was surprised that the DOT went for it, but they did, so we're good to go on that. So if the board would want to draw something up to allow that to happen.
Are you all in favor of that?
Yes.
Okay.
So you would rotate it, basically.
I can't hear you.
You would rotate it, basically. You would put it.
The temporary ones
temps, yeah.
would just be a test to see if they're working. If they work, then we'd do it in
Okay.
permanent install.
Okay.
And one other thing I wanted to ask is, I was still wondering where you stood on the plan for the hazard mitigation plan for the purchase of the backhoe that I've been asking about for a couple weeks. They left the backhoe at the shop, and I didn't hear anything back from anybody. I need to let them know. They left that demo there for us, and I'd like to know if the town board's
I
going to
haven't
move
heard
forward.
anything from the town board about this, so.
I haven't either, so that's why I'm asking.
Okay.
In fact, I didn't know the resolution was on tonight for the trailer either, so.
It's a last minute thing.
And then when you're done with this, I'd like to do my, the rest of my report.
I think we're good, right?
Yeah.
You can go ahead.
All right. First off, at the meeting on August 1st, I read a letter into the minutes. I did not see that letter included in the minutes. I had given a copy to Supervisor McKnight.
It's a draft and it has insert link in there when it's voted upon.
I can't barely hear you.
She said
She's going to attach it.
She said it's a draft and she's got a space in there for it,
Okay.
so.
This one I'd like to address to Andrew and the supervisor. Prior to August 1st, we had a couple conversations, or actually we tried to contact each other, Andrew, and then on August 1st, you called and I called you back, and I had a discussion with you about being able to provide the highway superintendent with legal advice for ongoing issues at the highway department. On August 3rd, again, we had that conversation, and you stated you were unable to provide legal advice to me because you report to the town board and it was a conflict for you. So I then asked if you would be able to provide outside counsel so that I could have legal advice, and again, you said no. So I'm concerned mainly because to date there is approximately $7,824 charged to my superintendent budget line of A5010.4, which is a contractual budget line, which I was budgeted $2,000. And normally we just submit office expenses and the RICO copier fee for the year out of that line. I've not submitted any other vouchers for that line that would equal $7,824. And I sent Leslie a message on Thursday, August 10th, Because now I understand that the bookkeeper is the official keeper of records for the town, is that correct?
She's the bookkeeper.
But is she the official keeper of records? Because I asked her if I could come in and look at the vouchers so I could understand what's being charged against my account. And I have not heard back from Leslie since Thursday. I don't know what her hours are, but, you know, and like Matt said, we have to put our personal feelings aside because we're elected here to serve every resident of town. And if I don't get communication back when I ask questions, it makes it very difficult for me to do my job. And I take my job
Likewise.
serious.
Likewise.
I answer every question that you ask me. I got all the emails to prove it, so I just like to have a little bit more communication. So I'd like to come in and look at the vouchers for that. And, you know, by town law, and I think Andrew will back me up on this, by section 112 of town law, those records are supposed to be available to the public. Somebody could pop in here from California and go into the clerk's office and ask to look up a voucher for Mike Schultes, and they'd go to the file and they'd pull it out and they'd give it to you. So I'm not used to having to ask. They've always been in the office since the days of Karen Horner. Even before I was supervisor, I used to come in and look at vouchers. So I'm just wondering on that front if I can get to look at the vouchers, and also if the town will be providing funding for me in A 5010.4 to hire outside counsel to provide legal advice to me, because my understanding is that it's a necessity by law that I'm able to get legal counsel and get legal advice. And one last thing I'd like to ask is I have several vouchers outstanding from as far back as December 22nd for almost $1,100. I've asked about it numerous times. You've said you'd look into it, you'd take care of it. I bought a 3/4 inch drive torque wrench and a dial indicator for a mechanic to get his job done. I bought a couple of safety rope slings for the tree crew to handle the tree work. And of course the postage for mailing easements to California, which you said you refused that. But on the other ones, I'm still waiting. I got excuses, though, the check fell behind the postage meter and other things, and I'd just like to know if I'm going to be reimbursed or not being reimbursed for the tools that I bought for the shop.
Okay.
Is that a yes, they're going to be reimbursed, or no, they're not going to be?
Sure.
A yes or a no?
I'm shaking my head.
I can't hear you.
Am I shaking my head?
I'm sorry.
I'm shaking my head. I'm shaking my head, yes.
We
Thank
have to
you.
watch the video to know.
You want me to address it?
Yes, please.
That was the- Okay, so just address a few things. Can you hear me? Okay. Just to address a few things, Mr. Schultes, of course, I've said this, I work for the town altogether. So when there's a conflict between the town board and the town highway superintendent, or say the town clerk, I really can't take sides, and I can't advise one side against the other. That's the point here. I want to help everybody in this town. I'm employed by everybody in this town. Obviously, the trailer that your department requested and needed, I could have sworn I told you I'd have the bid packet together for the next meeting, so we had it together tonight.
It wasn't on the agenda, so I had no clue.
All right, well, I did the bid packet at least, but, you know, I assist everybody in the town when I can. Annie, the board, and of course yourself, but obviously if different organs of the town are going to fight amongst themselves.
I know that you talked to
Yeah.
the attorney for the Association of Highway Superintendents, Tim?
Correct.
And I don't know the gist of that conversation, because he doesn't represent me, he represents our association.
Correct.
But, you know, what he advised me is that I am, by law, I have to be provided legal advice, and if you can't give it, then I have to get it from another area. So I'm asking the board if they're going to fund that line so that I can get legal advice on some of these issues,
Well,
and that's all I'm asking.
yeah, I mean,
And that's
listen,
that's pretty much not an answer coming from you. I think that's an answer from the supervisor and the board.
well, again, we would have to talk a little offline about what the legal advice is that you need. So obviously, some things are different than others. It depends on the topic and the question. And then the other thing too for yourself, and I know we've had this this issue with people requesting access to vouchers before. The ultimate keeper of the records is the town clerk's office, not the bookkeeper herself. But please, Annie is still new to the job. She's doing yeoman's work to get the records in order. The one request is, of course, to look at vouchers. There's hundreds of vouchers that get passed around, each month to get the town board members to sign off.
Well, I know in the past.
Hold on. Just one thing. We ask, the policy, I think, of the town clerk's office right now, and Annie, correct me if I'm wrong. It's voluminous. There's a lot of records to go through. If you're looking at vouchers, you're asking for everything from, bills that come from the attorneys to the bills submitted for, the postage to send things. So we just ask that people make an appointment because there's only so many people in the town clerk's office. You gotta.
And
I know
also, the
that,
records don't have to be in the clerk's office, they have to be in the building. They don't have to be in the clerk's office. A lot of towns, they keep the bookkeeper keeps the vouchers in the bookkeeper's office.
Irregardless, it should still be available, correct?
What?
So, irregardless, they're still supposed to be available.
Yeah, they're supposed to be
Just-
available,
so
but common courtesy,
Most of the,
common courtesy is that you make an appointment. You don't come in 2 days after the clerk passes away and then demand stuff.
I
you know,
didn't
and
come in
I'm
2
just
days after
saying-
the clerk.
Yeah,
I
we're trying to conduct business, everybody works here really hard every single day, and there's a lot to do, and so just the common courtesy of an appointment and make sure that it's okay to come in, and then we do it,
But I've never asked you for anything yet. I asked Leslie, and now he said that it's you, so I'll ask you. I'll send an email, and I'll ask for an appointment.
But it's not, I can't stop what I'm doing to help other citizens, to stop what I'm doing and go and get something if she's not in the office and I'm not sure where her files are at this point, or where she is with them, getting them in the abstract, I don't know, it's just.
Well, just like I said, I'm used to, in the past, there were always
Well, it's not
two
the past,
files,
Mike.
and everything was kept.
It's
I'm
not
talking
the
about
past.
Karen Horner. I'm going back years, even before I was town supervisor. And I know that the state controller likes everything stamped and numbered. But a majority of your town clerks throughout the state will keep it in alphabetical order. So if they have, John Doe, all the vouchers for John
Majority of them
Doe.
keep them in abstract order. That's what the majority of them do.
That's not what Bonnie told me. She's the head of your association, but you can talk to her. I gave you her.
Well, okay.
So, but that's what a lot of them do. So that when you go in, you just pull out alphabetical order. You go through, Montano's, pull it out. You can see every voucher. American Salt. I go in, I pull it out. I can see every voucher that we paid for that fiscal year, not for, every other year, just for that fiscal year.
Mike, hold on.
I
It's
can't.
super simple. I'm speaking very loud now. Can you hear me?
Doesn't matter. Look at-
Okay. I think it would be super simple to make an appointment with Annie, and then you can see the vouchers you need to see, and
I think it would be super simple to make an appointment with Annie.
Yeah, well, I did. Like I
And,
said, I
right?
didn't know that before. I'm
Right,
trying to
do
make
it
a point
now,
of that.
so, what was then, what's now is now. I know, just make an appointment, and then you can
I just
see the
found out that
vouchers.
That's what I have to do.
So, it shouldn't be an issue. That shouldn't be an issue. Period.
One last update I'll give you all. One last update I did in my conversation with Dennis Doyle today. Everything is completed for the RFP for Wildwood drainage project. Andrew, I don't know if you filed with the county clerk yet, the easements. I think that was the one remaining thing that you had to do. But I know Rich Ruth is retiring, so other members of Bernier Larris are taking over his tasks. And they looked over, in a week or so, I have to go in with Dennis and just look over to make sure that everything in the RFP is what he has to submit to you to go out to bid. And then the town board has to decide. I don't know where the Boone Chambers easement is or the Simpson easement is on Kimball Terrace. You may know more about that than I do.
if Member Simpson were here tonight, we could ask him. But yeah, the easements that we did get back have been filed. I'd have to check whether or not the county clerk's office.
For Wildwood.
Yeah, I'd have to check whether or not the county clerk's office has actually processed that fully, because sometimes they'll take a few days. It won't have a date
Vacation
on it.
and everything
Yeah,
else.
so we'd have to double check on that. And wait a minute, can I go back to the beginning? There's the speed humps for Joy's Lane and everything. I just want to make sure I've done what you're requesting here. Never mind. I remembered you requested a resolution for that. All right.
Did the town board have an opportunity to review the draft minutes that were sent?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. There is a supervisor's report. I'll scroll through it first, and then we can talk about it if you wish. This is the balance sheet, January 1st to July 31st, 2023. The assigned fund balance, it should be noted, is like $511,000. That's the only one that didn't get labeled there. Cash account is $3,296,409.42. The unassigned fund balance is $2,198,527.51. There's the cash account balance. We're in pretty good shape on the bar graph. Revenue and appropriations. You'll see revenue is $1,495,529.52, and the appropriations thus far this year, $1,302,596.08. Budgeted versus actual appropriations. You see, we budgeted about 2.1 million, and thus far we're just at 1.1. So we're being pretty conservative on spending.
Is this overall with both highway and general?
This is just general. This is not highway. It's just general fund. The town tax levy, you can see that it's relatively even. That's the overall levy. That's divided amongst 3,500 parcels, roughly. From last year to this year, there was a 0.75% decrease in property tax levy in the town. And then these are the tax rates broken up between what part of town you live in, Onteora School District or Kingston. The percentages are kind of hard to understand, I think. I mean, the town is 4.9% of the overall levy in the Onteora School District. Highway Department is 9% of the levy. So this is the tax rate per $1,000 of assessed value. The town sits at 97 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. The Highway Department sits at $1.79 essentially per $1,000 of assessed value. Libraries are the lowest with 41 cents in West Hurley. Kingston City Schools, the town share of the tax levy is 3.1% in the Kingston district, and highway looks like 5.7%. Is that right? And so what that looks like here, again, the town is 97 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. Highway is $1.79 of assessed per $1,000 of assessed value. School district, Kingston City Schools is double what Onteora is essentially. Kingston is $22.79 per $1,000 of assessed value, and Onteora is $11.96 per $1,000 of assessed value. So I share this with you because some people have said that the revaluation that's going to take place by industrial and utility valuation consultants will mean that taxes will go up. That is actually not necessarily the case. The tax levy is set by the town. If the town does not change the amount of the levy, that means that the amount of money per $1,000 of assessed value will actually decrease. So even though our assessed value goes up, it's very possible that our taxes don't go up. Again, the town only has control over this tiny little sliver here, 4.9% in Onteora, and actually 3.1% in Kingston. What this means for a house that is roughly 2,000 square feet on less than 3/4 of an acre of land in West Hurley, total tax for the town is about $222 total. So that's just a little primer before we head into.
Go back down.
Where do you want to go?
That one, cash account balance.
One is a cash account?
Yeah.
Take into account all the H capital fund accounts? Is that, where's that?
No.
Where's all that?
This is the
line?
cash.
All of that is, I didn't graph it on here. It's $4.2 million is in the capital funds. And if you include equity in that, it's actually 4.8. So.
Question on this. All right, it says 2023 as of 7/31. Are all those 2012 and so forth line, is that as of 7/31?
Those are year end.
That's year end.
No, those are year end.
So this is going to go up, obviously.
Yeah, this should go up. So we have, there's payments that the town gets toward the end of the year that we haven't yet received. So we're expecting another sales tax check. We're expecting some state aid. So there's some things in here that have not hit yet.
So we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to
Heck
mention
yeah.
was that the monies that were brought in for CHIPS and the other 3 programs last year, they don't seem to be hitting the revenue line for highway.
So it was deposited in the highway account. That's what I can tell you. We'll talk offline.
It would have come in electronically into the general fund, and then it would have been transferred.
I'll catch you later or tomorrow about it, because I know that it hit, and we got a check and we deposited it into the highway account.
Because as I formulate that spreadsheet for it,
Yep.
I know we have about 615,000 maybe in the capital funds. That's
Yep.
why I'm trying to get that the backhoe, and then we have 2 other trucks that we got to do.
Okay.
And maybe by next year, this time, we'll get the ones we ordered in September last year.
Yeah, that's true. So we are now effective in the last few weeks. We are processing all vouchers in-house. We don't send any paperwork now over to the other accounting firm. We were paying the accounting firm to enter payroll into the ADP portal, which meant that also the clerks had to enter payroll onto a spreadsheet and then send it over to the accounting firm, which seemed like duplication of work. So I think that there were a couple of hiccups, but I think Michelle seems to be happy with the new system. Once we get past the hiccups, yeah, I mean,
Today was a big hiccup.
I know, it was the first week. ADP messed things up, but we'll get that ironed out.
If the PTO gets put in properly.
Yes.
It wouldn't allow us to enter payroll, so then Tamara had to go back in and try to.
Yeah, I know, they messed that up. Here's the thing, the town a couple of years ago, as a cost-saving measure, stopped paying the accounting firm and the payroll company to keep track of PTO, which meant that we were out of compliance because we were keeping track of it manually and it wasn't printed on pay stubs. So one of the things that we're doing is getting us back into compliance and getting the PTO entered properly, which will happen this week, essentially. So a lot has come in-house, and it's, you know, we're not quite there yet, but we're really close to having everything running smoothly. So I know, Mike, you tried to do this when you were in, to bring it in-house.
It didn't work out.
Yeah. So
If I'd been successful, you wouldn't have it going for it.
I know. So I appreciate your patience through this process. It's been bumpy. We could have used a little bit more assistance from consultants, but other than that, things seem to be going smoothly.
I did meet Kyle, by the way, today. He seems like he'll be a pretty good fit up there. So.
Yeah, Nick I think started, or will be starting shortly.
I had to pick up garbage on Beesman Road and go through 3 bags to see if I could track down who dumped it. But not only was it disgusting, but I wasn't successful. So I'll have a couple more bags because we're seeing more of that dumped around town.
Yeah. So is there a motion to adopt the supervisor's report?
Motion
Is there a second?
Supervisor's beautiful
Is there a
report.
second?
Second, yes.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? So carried. Okay.
Any opposer abstaining?
Carried.
Okay. Thank you,
That's
AI.
why we need Clark instead of this. Because this really isn't into compliance with the Hearing Disability Act at all.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
No, I have a question.
Oh.
I'll make something up.
Okay.
The last meeting we talked about, you're going to talk to Greg, the executive director of UCRA, about getting leachate pools done by UCRA again. Have you had that discussion with him yet?
We're talking.
All right.
I don't have a resolution quite yet.
All right. Well, we're actually leaning towards going back to UCRA. All right. My other question is cars. You know, we have 4 cars, town cars here, and I don't see them at all.
They're parked right outside.
That one's been sitting there for a
Well,
while.
I see the one that you're driving.
The blue
It's been
one
sitting
is
there since
mine.
Tuesday.
Okay.
2 weeks it's
No,
been
I'm just
sitting
saying, there's also a Jeep that was given to Glenn.
It's out there.
there. It's out there.
Is it out there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep, those cars get a lot of use. And we've seen a marked decrease in the amount of mileage submissions by employees having to get reimbursed by doing that. There's also mileage logs in all of the vehicles that are regularly filled out. And
Have we got someone to maintenance worker yet? Have we got that person?
no,
yet?
we've been advertising for that, so
Maintenance what work?
cleaning.
Cleaning,
Yeah.
handyman.
We've all been pitching in here to keep things
One
clean.
thing the union brought up today, because Verizon's coming in and has to fix all the cameras and the GPSs in the trucks, and they're asking why the other town vehicles don't have the placards on them that say Town of Hurley, Highway Department, or Building Department, or Assessors, or whatever, and why they don't have to have cameras and GPS in all the town vehicles townwide, so.
Have the regular town vehicles ever had logos? I mean, the ones that we've had are
No,
the.
they haven't.
The Building Department always had it.
The Jeep that was purchased years ago had never had anything on it.
This is the union.
No, I know, but the Jeep that was purchased long ago never had anything on the side of it, and neither did the electric car. So, you know, I mean, we can get it done, but nobody previously, to my knowledge, has done it, at least in recent memory.
That way, that when they pull in somebody's driveway, they see the placard. They also have their name tag on, so
Yep.
that people are aware. So.
We can look into that. Anything else?
I have a few things.
Okay.
I'll start at the beginning of the meeting from my notes. I'm really glad that Sam came and addressed it. I sit on the board of the Good Neighbor Pantry, and I'm glad I get to go and eat some food. I also do the Women's March in Traffic in Woodstock, so that's pretty cool. I would like to propose that we look into to have Hurley have a Volunteers Day too, because I heard a lot of people that were pretty disgusted with that comment about people volunteering and how they were basically, it was a bad thing. I think we should do it instead of tearing down the volunteers in our own town, as you can tell by what Sam was talking about, and actually probably why he's here. The second thing I want to state is we talked about the toilets, the pressure being turned down in the toilets in a meeting 2 weeks ago, and we got that fixed and put back the way it was. Now, unfortunately, due to all of this goes along with all of this tearing down of everybody and everything, that it's just sick that the plumber literally said that had to be sabotage. Now I go up to look at the leachate system. Mr. Baum's asked me about the tarp that was over it, and I'm just saying because that's where I'm going with it. I go and check this thing. The hose that pumps this out of that area is literally 50 feet long. Someone yanked it out of where it was, brought it all the way back, basically inside the pool, so the water would all recirculate again and end up being pumped into the leachate system. The only way that could happen if somebody actually pulled it. So I find that, and I'm like, oh my God. So I put that back where it belongs, and then I go and I'm just like, I need to check this whole thing out. And I check the pump, and the pump won't work. So
we're talking about the pump that's on top of the tarp that's inside the berm, so that we're not collecting precipitation from the sky into the
right.
leachate collection system.
It's basically if you had a pump inside your pool or your tub or something. So I couldn't get the GFI plug to work. It kept tripping, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. So I start tracking it back. I pull on the cord. This is what I find.
Somebody cut that cord.
Somebody cut my cord. So now, it's fixed now. I put a new one in and fixed that. But this is getting really old of me having to check on the stuff that we're being fixed.
It's not good for the town. Like
It's
this,
not.
I mean,
It's
we're
disgusting.
working hard to make sure that things are working properly, and
Can we put some cameras in?
That's what I wanted to bring up.
I think we're gonna have
We're
to.
going to be forced to put cameras pretty much everywhere.
I thought you had a camera up there already.
There was a trail cam to catch the leachate pumping when it was happening before the electronic system was repaired. And then when the work was done, that camera was removed because it would have continued to trip and it would have been pointless. So no, there's no camera there. I think we're gonna have no choice but to put something.
We're gonna get vandalism there.
Well, apparently we already are, but people knew what they were doing, just like the pump,
Yeah.
the
So we should,
toilets.
yeah, that has to be secure.
As far as me charging the town, I want to make this totally clear, and I wish he was back. But I've never asked the town for any mileage, never. I still haven't.
On your personal vehicle.
On my personal
Right.
vehicle at all. As far as even donating, a matter of fact, that cord came from my house. If I have extra stuff that I'm not using, I'll use it. I don't care. You know, it's just a real sad state of affairs that this is what this has come down to.
Well, I think we should declare this no vitriol month.
Well, it would be really
And
nice.
No more petty grievances against ridiculous things that are actually
Well, I
good.
haven't looked at Facebook in months.
Oh, well, forget
Don't.
Facebook. Forget that.
And as far as our thing, Mike, we did use Stack. Stack doesn't even exist anymore. They were eaten up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we had something that worked all the time, and now they've been consumed. Look at all of the corporations now just sucking banks up and everything else up. They're not the same. You know, you just don't get the same. You don't get the same help. You don't get the same service. And that's what
And that's
happened
no
with us.
slight against the staff working there, it's just not the same.
You know, you get a new boss, you have to do what they say, and you gotta work the way they want you to work. And it wasn't working, you know, so. Besides that,
All right, well, I'm really
see you
concerned
people at the
about
volunteer day.
broken lines and all that stuff, and, you know, so let's put some cameras up there.
Yeah.
Because
Okay, we'll look at cameras. The one challenge is that there's no Wi-Fi at the park. So
Light dish.
I think we need to
We have to look into it.
look into
It needs to be
Wi-Fi
done.
at the park.
Well, we had Spectrum come up there like a couple years ago,
Yeah,
and they suggested putting a tower there or Wi-Fi there.
yeah,
And the price was $10,000.
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Which is crazy considering, you know, we did a franchise fee, right? And there's money in the franchise fee account.
Oh my God, Spectrum's
So-
a great big corporation.
Yeah. So the one thing I did want to address is, it was asked what we're doing about cell service. I have been in consistent meetings with the county about cell service in Hurley, and there were 2 applications in front of the planning board, and they had to go before the zoning board of appeals for height requirement, but I believe that that's moving forward, so there'll be 2 small cell transmitters, one at the corner of 209 and Wine Coop, and
that is 5G, that's
the-
not cell service.
it's small cell. That's what Verizon is proposing. The church is upgrading the hardware in the belfry. Well, it's not the church, it's the vendor. And then once their vendor upgrades, they don't have any exclusivity, so they plan to approach the other providers to co-locate in the belfry. County has said to us that there's really no good location for a tower in Hurley itself because of the landscape and different things. So they plan to the county is going to locate 6 towers throughout the county over the next 2 years. It's a 2-year build out. Those are designed. All in favor? So carried.
Thank you so much.